20-minute beginning flute tutorial, and I hope to, in the next 20 minutes, to inspire you and to get you started playing the Native American flute. And so thank you for joining me. Yes, so wow, just to give you a little information and history about myself. My name is Shelley Morningsong, and I've been playing the native flute now for about 17 years. I taught myself how to play this beautiful instrument many years ago, 17 years ago, mostly working in the Grand Canyon, as a lot of you know who have taken my beginner class courses. I love to, such a beautiful memory for me to think about when I taught myself to play this instrument, and used to work in the Grand Canyon. And Fabian, my husband Fabian, and I, sometimes we would get very tired. Our feet would get tired from dancing, and my vocals would be tired from singing, and I needed a break after 6 hours. So I kept bringing my flute, and I decided one day to just start playing my flute to give us a rest. And I wanted to learn how to play, and I was a little shy about it, so I just decided to dive right in, and ended up playing 3-4 hours a day, sometimes for maybe a week or two at a time, just to give us a break during our performance time there at the Grand Canyon. So I taught myself how to play it, and so I just want to encourage you that you can learn to play this wonderful instrument. I never had instruction, which I wish now that I had known there was, but it's okay. I struggled for a while, but I found my way, and I believe that I was meant to play this instrument. I love music. I play many instruments. I'm sitting in my studio right now, play many stringed instruments and so forth, but the Native American flute is the most special and most wonderful instrument to me. It's a heart instrument. This is a medicine instrument, and it's brought a lot of peace and healing to my heart, my soul. It's wonderful for my meditation times, and I love to play it in our shows as well. And so I just want to encourage you to be patient as you embark on this journey. Be patient with yourself. It takes time. It took me time in order to get strong in my fingering and my breath. So be patient with yourself. The Native American flute is thousands and thousands of years old, and there's so many tribes that have different stories about this instrument. In my family, the Northern Cheyenne people, we believe this flute came from our people thousands of years ago. And so, and that's a long story, which, I don't want to take too much time for that, but we believe that this came from the Northern Cheyenne people. But as I said, the other tribes, even into South America, all over the world, have their own stories of the flute, or in this country of ours, the Native American flute. So, all right, so let's get started. I want to say that probably the most challenging thing about learning to play the native flute is finger placement. Once you finally conquer your finger placement, and as you play, you'll gain strength in your fingers, and once you are able to place your fingers over the holes correctly, you will be on your way. This is the part that takes time. So that's why I always say, be patient with yourself. So, yes, finger placement is very, very important. Um, so when you play your flute, you want to make sure that you rest the mouthpiece on your lower lip, and your upper lip comes over the top of the mouthpiece, and just in a very gentle way. And this goes for your finger placement as well. The tendency is to just grip it so tightly. But you want to cradle this instrument. This has to be a very relaxed hold, although you are going to, as I said, make sure that your fingers are placed, the pads of your fingers are placed over the holes so that they're covering correctly, but holding the flute in a very relaxed manner and putting the mouthpiece to your lips in a very relaxed manner. So when you're blowing, it's a gentle breath, and every flute is different, you know, like this beautiful flute that I'm holding right now is made by Dana Ross. Dana Ross is an incredible flute maker, and his flutes, when I blow into this flute, I have sort of a medium breath, and most of Dana's flutes I've learned are like that. I have another flute that I play. It's a Brent Haynes flute, beautiful flute. This flute is different in that I can blow very hard, very hard. I always make jokes about this because the Brent Haynes flute that I have, when we were working in the Grand Canyon, I could play that flute in 60-mile-an-hour winds, you know, and it just gave a beautiful sound. You can't do that with all flutes. So Dana's flute requires sort of a medium breath, and there's other flutes that you can just barely blow into. You have to be very gentle. So when you start to play, you'll find with the flute that you have what type of breath you need to use when you're blowing out. So if your fingers are not covering the holes correctly, you're going to hear wind and air coming through here and squeaks and so forth, and that's a good signal that you're not covering using the pads of your fingers, that you're not covering correctly. You don't ever want to come up onto the flute like this. It's a relaxed sort of hold with the pads of your fingers covering each hole. This will be your biggest challenge in learning, so I always like to remind everyone. So let me give you an example of if you were to go ahead and try to play and you're not covering the hole correctly. So here's with it correctly. And here is if air is coming through. So that's the kind of sound you'll hear, and that's your signal that the pads of your fingers are not covering the holes correctly. So here's a little exercise that you can do for all you beginner flute players out there. This is a great exercise. It's good for strengthening, for muscle memory. It's good for learning and practicing good habits. And I really encourage you to do these exercises each day as you're learning to play the flute. So we're going to start at the bottom of the scale and go up and then back down. And slowly. Don't rush yourself. Also, there's so many wonderful things that I can say about the Native American flute. I love to share some of these things in the classes that I teach. It's important to breathe. I know in this day and age, we have so much stress in our lives, a lot of stress in our lives. And sometimes we forget to breathe. And playing the Native American flute will really help you with that. It's important to take deep breaths when you're playing. It's important to sit up straight, which I should have been doing already. Sit up straight, put your shoulders back, and take a deep breath before you begin to play. In fact, before you begin your practice session, it's a good thing to just sit and do some deep breathing. Just take a deep breath, hold it, and let it out. And just, this deep breathing and breathing, taking in deep breaths will help with your energy level, bring your energy up, and prepare you for your practice session. And you'll be a more powerful player if you learn how to breathe and use your breath correctly, because this instrument also requires breathing techniques. This is going to really strengthen your diaphragm, your muscles here. It's incredible. This is a medicine instrument on so many levels, not just for our soul, our spirit, our heart, but physically also. If you struggle with asthma or a breathing condition like that, this flute can help strengthen your airways and so forth. So we'll do the scales one more time and play along with me. Let's take a deep breath this time and see if we can get the whole scale from bottom up to the top and back down again on one breath. We'll see if we can do that. So as you're letting your breath out to play the scales, you're controlling your breath. You're controlling it. This is how you're going to strengthen and get better at your breathing techniques that you'll be doing a lot of later on in your flute playing. You want to keep this third hole down covered with your ring finger. There's no rules about which hand goes on top. When I picked up the flute for the first time, my left hand immediately went to the top. I don't know why. It's comfortable, but that's the beautiful thing about this instrument, is there's no rules. So whatever hand you have on the top, left or right, whatever's comfortable, that's the way that you'll play. A long time ago, Native American flutes only had 5 holes. And so this is why we need to keep this covered. But we can also use this later on in your flute playing. You'll be using this. You'll learn how to use this hole to uncover it. There's certain other fingers that have to cover here before you can uncover this one. But that's another lesson for later on. But if you don't, if you're having a hard time with this finger, on some flutes they automatically have a leather tie that goes over this third hole to keep it covered for you. And so you can do that. And if not, just learn to use this finger and keep it covered. So let's do the scales one more time, taking a deep breath and controlling that breath, letting it out very slowly as we go all the way to the top and back down again. I still had a lot of air left in there, so yeah, so I really want to encourage you again, be patient with yourself. And a lot of my first-time students, we squeak a lot, and it just takes time to develop that finger memory, muscle memory, and covering the holes correctly. Um, blow. You'll know by the flute that you have, because they each have their own personality. As you start to play more, whether what level of breath that you'll be releasing through the flute. For this flute that I'm playing today, the Dana Ross, one of my signature flutes actually made by Dana Ross, is a very medium sort of breath, not too hard and not too light either. And so practice your scales. Practice your scales. Make sure you do that at least a little bit every day. This will help you. And I guarantee before long, you'll be playing this beautiful instrument. I taught myself to play, and it's the most wonderful, joyous, fulfilling thing. And I'm just so glad that I got over my shyness and just grabbed this flute and just started to play it. And there's so much more, but I don't want to overwhelm you, in this session. I do give private lessons, and I hold classes now and then as I can. Probably later on this year I'll be holding more classes again. Right now I'm got so many things going on right now that are pulling me in different directions, it's all good though. Let me think. So scales, breathing. I think this is a good place to start. Here's another just another something that you can use in your practice time. Try to play a song using just the bottom 3 notes. Here's an example. And so then, as you can see, you're already playing a song. You can use finger tapping. Finger tapping is really fun. And I don't expect that you would play that fast when you're beginning. And this is just a product of years of playing and my muscle memory. I know that when I first started to play, and I'm sure you'll do the same, the tendency is to look a lot, to just look at your fingers. And try not to do that. If you can practice in front of a mirror, it's really, really helpful. Then you can see yourself in the mirror, and you're not so much looking down at the instrument. So try practicing in front of a mirror. That will help you. Pretty soon you'll be so skilled you won't even have to look down at the holes anymore. And practice your scales up and down. Start slow. Go slow. Take your time. Don't be hard on yourself. Take deep breaths. Deep breaths before you go to play your notes. Practice doing a little 3-note song on the 3 bottom holes of your flute. And practice. And pretty soon you will be more confident in yourself to experiment and try other things. And yeah, so if you'd like to go further on into playing and learning more, there's just so many wonderful things going on as far as like learning how to learn to play the native flute. Myself, I can help you. There's Johnny Lipford. There's just so many wonderful teachers out there. So don't be shy to get a hold of me, and
You can reach me at my website, shelleymorningsong.com. Reach out to me, or through the Native Rhythms Festival here. Just get a hold of me, and we can talk about going the next step. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you blessings as you learn to play the Native American flute. Thank you.